Hi everyone, it's Lauren from Love Renovate. I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. This week I'm going to chat to you all about loft conversions and how straightforward it might be to do one in your home. Now, for good reason, they are such a popular renovation project. If you say you've got enough space downstairs, you love your home, it's easier to add a loft conversion often it is to actually move house. And often we've got wasted space up in the loft where we're just storing some kind of things, bits and bobs, and that space can be used for much better use for your family's home. But there are a few things about your loft that can actually impact how easy it's going to be for somebody to convert it, and therefore the overall cost. So we're going to look at these things today just to give you a bit of an idea of what you should be thinking about before you go and speak to an architect or a loft conversion company. So the first thing to look at, and it's a really simple one, is how high is the highest part in your loft space. It's normally the centre. Go up and measure it. Now you're looking for this to be a minimum of around 2.2 metres to make it a comfortable living space. Now, building regulations don't look at the height of the overall loft, they only look at it above the stairs. But you don't want anything that's going to be much less than 2.2 metres because it's not going to give you enough head space. It might be fine, say for example, if it's going to be your kids' bedroom, they're only small, but think about it in the future when they're teenagers, they're much bigger, you need enough comfortable head space. Remember, the 2.2 metres will be your loft as it is now. Once you start adding in carpets and decor, that will reduce slightly as well. So you want 2.2 metres as a minimum. That being said, if you don't have that, you can raise the height of the roof, or you can lower the ceiling below. But those two options will add significantly onto the cost of your loft conversion. So that's something just to bear in mind. It's much easier if you've got enough room at the outset. So the next thing to think about is, where are your stairs going to go? So there's no point in, putting stairs up to a loft that's going to take away most of a bedroom downstairs. You may want to talk this through with an architect or a loft conversion company, and they could tell you kind of easily where it would go and how much space it's going to take up. It's quite hard sometimes to visualise yourself, but you need to consider how much space you're taking away just to add more space upstairs. It might just not make sense. And then back to we're talking about the heights. Building regs do state that you need 2 metres above where your stairs come clear. So you need that kind of headroom. You might not have that, and it might be because the style of your roof, you might need to change that so you've got that height. Again, that would add to the cost of where you're going to pop up when you walk up the stairs, if you've got 2 metres clear or not. So that's another thing to consider. So the next thing to think about is the kind of style of your roof, and there's a couple of things here that can really impact how simple it's going to be to extend into your loft space, and therefore how much it's going to cost you. The first one to think about is whether your roof is a truss roof or not. Now, truss roofs are common in properties that were built in the 1960s onwards. They're typically cheaper to build, they're made off-site, and then they're used to support the roof space. Truss roofs, if you kind of want to work out if you've got one or not, they tend to be kind of a W-shaped rafters holding everything up. You won't have much actual floor space in your loft. There will just be a lot of space on the ground to use for storage, but not actually anywhere you can actually walk. Whereas properties made before the 1960s tend to be more the kind of A-shaped rafters, which were made on site, and they were strong enough to hold up the roof, and probably made by a carpenter. Now those ones, so anything kind of 1960s before, predating the 1960s, they're cheaper because obviously it's already opened up and they just need to strengthen the rafters. If you've got a truss roof, there's obviously a lot more work to do to change the actual structure, and then you will need a kind of steel beam and everything put in there. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done, so lots of labour and more materials there. And then the other thing to look at is whether your roof is a hip or a gabled roof. Now, again, properties, gabled roofs tend to be more common in properties from the 1930s and predating that, whereas hip roofs are more common from the 1930s onwards. Now, a gabled roof would be a kind of where the gable end extends the whole way up from the house, so you've got the straight sides all the way up and you've got kind of A-shaped roof. Now that is ideal for loft conversion because you can walk the whole way along, you've got the same height along the roof in the loft space, so you would just add a dormer at the back and then you've got a lot of height there. If you've got a hipped roof, then it means you've got a kind of pyramid shaped roof. So if you were looking at it straight on, you've got the sides going like that rather than going flat up like that. So it means you've got a lot less space to kind of walk across. And for that, people would tend to say if it was a semi-detached property, they would tend to just then make it hip to gable to straighten up, so you've got a lot more usable floor space, and then add a dormer at the back. Now again, it's a really common type of loft conversion, hip to gable, and obviously adding in the dormer, but compared to just doing a simple dormer, it is a lot more expensive. So you'd be looking for, say for a dormer, something around £35,000, say for example. Prices can change a lot depending where you are, but say if you use that number in your head, hip to gable can cost you kind of in excess of £50,000 because there's a lot of structural work. So it's just worth looking at your house and just seeing what type it is, and just bearing that in mind when you talk to your loft conversion company or your architect. So the next thing to think about is your existing waste pipe. So ideally, if you're going to put a bathroom up in your loft conversion, you might decide you don't want to, but you want to make sure it's good. It looks where your existing waste pipe is. So ideally, it'd be above the bathroom on the first floor, something like that. But just have a look where it would be, and kind of, is it something that could be quite straightforward? Is it easy to attach to your existing waste? Of course, there's solutions around things, but sometimes it might not be worth doing. If you're doing a loft conversion, you might not want to add in the extra bathroom if it's quite complicated to actually connect to your existing waste. So the last thing to think about is if your loft conversion is going to include a bathroom or ensuite as well as a bedroom, then you want to make sure that your boiler can cope with the additional pressure. Especially if it's going to be your master bedroom, which is going to be, you're going to be using the shower daily at the same time as another bathroom, and water pop taps being used at the same time, then you really need to make sure you're going to have the pressure so that you don't turn on your shower and you kind of get a trickle, and it's quite disappointing. Also, if you plan to sell your house, people are going to look at the pressure. So people want to see a decent pressure coming through it for a good shower experience. And if there's, if you don't have that, it's almost pointless having this extra shower. So even if your boiler, it might have like 3 bars or whatever, you'd still need to bear in mind that that water still needs to get up to the loft, and it will lose pressure as it goes up. So if, for example, you have a combi boiler, it's probably time to replace the combi boiler for a conventional system, because combi boilers anyway can normally just cope well with like one bathroom, a kind of smaller house. So if you're adding on another bathroom, regardless if it's in the loft, then you would want a kind of conventional system. The other thing that you would want is an unvented hot water system, and this does away with the cold water tank which you conventionally have, and the hot water tank is heated directly from the mains with the mains pressure, and that gives you far more pressure throughout your home. So that's something you would ideally do if you were converting into your loft. Now this can be probably the more expensive option, because obviously you've got to change a lot of your heating system downstairs, but it's just, if you're going to use that bathroom in your loft conversion all the time, then it's worth thinking about. If it's going to be like a spare guest bathroom, you're going to use it like 5% of the time, then do talk to your plumber or builder around different solutions like a pump. There's different things that you can do, but obviously those are not as ideal anyway as getting your system ready to work properly for the new loft conversion bathroom. Hope you found that useful. Do head over to Love Renovate. We've got loads more stuff on loft conversions, lots of different ideas, inspiration and advice. So head over loverenovate.co.uk, and if you want to speak to me, then please do email me, lauren@loverenovate.co.uk.